Hi, this is Marc Champ from the Wharf Academy. Thank you for tuning in today. Today we are joined by Chris Duke, who is a property investor and serial refurber. Hi, Chris, how are you?
I'm very well, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good. So we met a little while back, probably 3 years ago, something like that, I think.
Must be around that time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've been trying to help you with your journey in the property investment world. Not always been plain sailing for for one reason or another. But so, do you want to tell everybody the sort of thing you look at and what you concentrate on?
Yeah. I guess if I start where we started was we just started doing vanilla single lets about 7 or 8 years ago. And it was kind of like a sideline thing and it was going okay, but the growth wasn't there. And it was about 3 or 4 years ago, we decided to add some HMOs to our portfolio. And that's where I got some training and you and I met through that. Um, and that's where I started to look at, options for turning properties into HMOs. And what I discovered was there was actually quite a good way of doing it was buying commercial properties with uppers and converting all or some of it to residential. So the first two projects we worked on with you have both been that type of project. The first one, we converted the whole building to 2 flats and 6-bed HMO. The second one, we actually kept the commercial as was because we found tenants pretty quickly, and then we just converted the uppers into an HMO again. So that's kind of been my initial side of it. However, that has thrown up some issues around financing, also, just the cost of doing it all. So we're actually doing another one, just completing now, which we're working on with you, which is doing a straightforward, 3-bed house to 5-bed HMO, and just seeing how that works. So it's kind of staying within the HMO realm currently, although with the change in the cost of heating and electric and everything else, we're looking at how that's going to affect us over time. So whether we continue to go as hard into HMOs or how the HMO market works out, we're still considering. But so far it's been okay, but not great. I think is with the change and with October coming, who knows? So so that's kind of what we're looking at the moment.
Excellent. And you've obviously been doing it for quite a while. A lot of people come to me and ask what the commitment that you need in property investment. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but mine is it's almost a full-time job. How would you see it?
I gave up my sort of corporate life about 3 years ago to concentrate on the property business. And it is almost a full-time job. What it's given me is the flexibility to, spend time with the family. So that's kind of been, so I don't have to work 9 to 5. I don't have to leave the house. Before lockdown, I was working from home anyway. And when lockdown happened, everyone just came into my office, which was a bit annoying, but we're dealing with it. So this is why I'm in this office. My wife works in my old office. So this is the study we have. But so it's not a bed behind me, it's a day bed. So in case I feel a bit tired later on. But yeah, I think, there are times, like at the beginning of this year where I've had almost 3 refinances or going through at the same time. Also, just to throw some into that, where we just bought some land to build our own house. So I've had all this going on. So I think at one point I was dealing with 8 different solicitors. It can be a full-time job, but equally it gives me the flexibility for it not to be a full-time job. But I think trying to do it as a side hustle, it depends what you're doing. I mean, if you're doing the sourcing and the project management and everything else, that's really tough. I mean, I outsource all of that stuff. My portfolio is, we're in South London, my portfolio is nowhere near that. And so I outsource, working with local sources, project managers, builders, and also, then working with agents who manage that for me. So whilst I go to visit my properties, I'm not completely hands-on, which is the way I wanted it. I didn't want another full-time job that involved me traveling around the country, for sure.
And with you mentioned the sources, how do you find a good sourcer? Because I have people send me emails with properties on, and I'm like, why the hell have you sent me this? And
Yeah.
yeah, how do you find them?
A lot of it is word of mouth. Finding people who have worked with other people um, or working with established businesses. So a lot of my initial single lets were through Progressive Property. Not as before I did any training or anything like that. They were offering a portfolio management service, but I went to meet them. I saw what they were doing. I liked the way they worked, so that's kind of why I did that. The next guy was someone I met through. I did some property training. I got to know some people there, and I got introduced to a few people who are sourcers. And you just meet them, you have a conversation with them, you find out if they're the right people. I'm not going to just go on to a site, on a Facebook group and say, can anyone find me a property in wherever? Because that way you basically get thousands of people emailing you with just right move links, which is not what it's about.
No.
You need people. I basically give them a criteria of what I'm looking for, and they go out and find those kind of properties for me. I mean, sometimes they already have them in place because they know what they're doing. The guy I use up in the Northwest, he was being mentored by someone I was working with. So, it was a different area for them. So it just kind of worked for us initially. And, and the one, and another one I'm doing, because I moved area just to try something different. It's a complete end-to-end solution who was recommended by another property investor who'd used them 3 or 4 times. So it's very much, word of mouth, speaking to people, finding the area, because I'm not looking to build, I'm not looking to build a portfolio local to me. It gives me a bit more flexibility to work with people like that. But, it's never completely plain sailing. I haven't found a project that's gone anywhere near to plan that we thought it would. Whether that be, delays in the refurb or, problems with the financing or problems with utilities, everything, there's always an issue somewhere. But yeah, it's not easy, but you just got to keep looking and know what you want. I think that's the key thing, is if you understand, I've done a lot of training on these things, so I know what I'm looking for, even if I'm not actually doing it. And I think that's the key thing.
And do you think, you mentioned criteria and knowing what you want. Do you think without that training, you would know what you want?
No, I think I'd struggle. Well, I wouldn't know which questions to ask. So it's, yes, we can all go and look at YouTube videos and say, okay, I need a 3-bed house I can convert into a 5-bed. But, do I know about, finding out about, what the demand is in that area? Do I know to ask about, how people manage that property? What kind of requirements, for fire safety, room sizes, all these things that you need to know. You could spend hours looking around videos to find them, but I found that with training, I knew exactly what I needed to ask that person. So if I ask the questions of that person and they don't know the answers, then obviously I'm not going to work with them because they're not the right partner. I had a situation with managing agents where they claimed to be an HMO specialist. And I said, well, how often are you visiting the property? And they said, oh, we go once a month. And I said, well, you need to do fire safety checks weekly. Oh, no, you don't. And I was like, well, you do. So thank you, move on. So, obviously it depends on the fire safety system you have.
Yeah.
But this was a 6-bed and I had to have it. So it's things like that, you need. I think if you know how to do it, you don't, obviously, I don't want to go into the whole thing of doing it myself, but if I know what I'm looking for, then I can ask people, make sure they are doing those things for sure.
And you look at HMO, and you also mentioned the semi-commercial aspect. Has that been any more difficult than just a normal buy-to-let?
Yes.
And tell us how.
Yeah. The biggest issue we found, and this is something we learned on the way, was utilities. So quite often utilities into a commercial building are different for what's required from a residential, especially if you're going to put an HMO with 6 showers in, you need to up your water. You need to make sure you've got electricity and gas split across the different properties. And dealing with utility companies, I had no idea how painful it was. And the problem is that they're used to dealing with developers who are developing projects, they could be developing 100 houses, and they're asking you the same question. What's the KVA coming into the house? I'm like, I don't know. You guys have already had the supply there. Can you not tell me? No, you have to go. So there's a whole bunch of things that we had no idea about, and that has been a real bane on a lot of the stuff we've done. And even on the second one where we started that process at the beginning, I still don't have the electric sorted on my one that we started renting 6 months ago. Wow. I mean, I've got electric in, but they haven't sorted out the billing. And my first house, it took the Scottish Power over a year to sort out my billing. It had to go to the ombudsman because they were so useless. But it basically meant I was whacked with a lumping bill 3 months ago for a year's worth of electricity. I had no idea how much I'd used, and it went on, but we managed to sort it out. But so that was certainly one of the biggest things with dealing with utilities, because it's not ready. The water isn't right, that sort of stuff. And then dealing with the council as far as whilst commercial to resi is permitted development, it's not quite everywhere. So the second one we did, we discovered that actually there was in the area we were in, we weren't able to convert it all to residential. We convert some of it, and we actually got planning permission to convert the rear of the shop to a flat, and upstairs to an HMO, which was residential anyway. But we kept the front as a shop. As it happened, the person who moved in the front said, "Actually, can I take the back as well?" Which meant we didn't have to deck it out as a flat. We just put a shell in there, and they're using it for their business. But it's dealing with commercial is a different thing. I need different agents. Obviously, terms are different, but it's just understanding how to do that stuff. It was a learning experience, and I now know how to do it. Would I rush to it again? I'm not so sure, because one of the things we found at the back end was the lending. As you're discovering, is lending residential and commercial together with an HMO seems to be really difficult.
And it doesn't help if solicitors don't understand what's going on either.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make
it takes a little bit of convincing to solicitors, which I suppose that the good thing is, if you get your team together, they will fight your corner, and they will keep going until you get the right outcome. And I know your solicitor, who we recommended to you, is very good, in my opinion. I think you agree. And it really helps. So, getting the right people involved is really important. And the mix of commercial and HMO is difficult. Lenders, it's slightly complex, especially in a challenger bank world. They don't like it. They have tick boxes that they have to fill, and anything that cross contaminates any part of that is really quite difficult for them. So it's a learning experience. And for me as a broker, people say to us, "Oh, this is a really easy case. This is a vanilla deal." There is no such thing. We've never had an easy deal. I can't think of anything that's gone through quickly, just as a house purchase, as a property investment purchase. Everything has a quirk to it, literally everything.
And I think with the hardest thing, I think, is actually the valuation side of it. When obviously with the commercial mix and HMO, the valuation could have been anything. We had a number in mind, and we sort of worked on using commercial numbers, but then we don't know what the value is going to decide, do we? The value could say, actually, it's a hybrid model, which just means they make it up, as far as I can see. Because what does hybrid mean? There's either a commercial valuation or there's not. Yes, but I think there's that side of it, and then the one we've just done, where they've come back with a ridiculous valuation because they don't appear to understand or are against HMOs. It's difficult, because I think all these things is, you have a valuation number based on experience and what the market's telling you, but if a valuer comes in and values different, it's really hard.
You
And
can't change it.
yeah,
I had somebody come to me recently saying, "Can we change this valuation? Because we've got all these comparables. We provided 10 comparables to the value. He wasn't going to change it. He came back with his own comparables that
yeah,
he said, look at these. These are just as good as your comparables. We're not changing it." And we had another one. This was about a month ago. It was anticipated by the customer that the market value be, I think it was 490. The value came in at 430.
yeah,
That was a massive difference. We tried to challenge it, but we didn't get anywhere. So we went to a different lender, different valuer, valued it at 490.
yeah,
No questions. It's like, how can that be? So
yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, obviously, position we're in. I mean, we'll have a talk after this about what we're going to do next, but I suspect we're going to have to do the same because, I buy a property for 140. He comes back and values it, 6 months later as 140, even though I've turned it into a 5-bed all ensuite HMO. Even if he said, oh, it's worth 170 because of the work you've done, I would have felt better about it. But the valuation he came in just basically means he doesn't get it.
No.
And I don't think he's going to move because we've got so much evidence to prove he's wrong, but he's just going to dig his feet in. And I think it's one of the many problems with this is valuation is a subjective thing. It's not, they can't, no one can say this is the formula. There's no it's not like commercial real estate where it's, the cost per square foot is this.
Yeah.
There's so many variables. I've seen, my own house, I'm selling at the moment to fund my house build. People look at the value of it, and it's very much in the eye of the beholder because it's not, my house isn't like any other house in the area. It's very difficult to value it. So someone says, oh, there's a 4-bed around the corner that's worth this. And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't have a driveway, a big garden and all this extra stuff. But, so people, it's very difficult out there. But, I think it's one of the dangers of property investment is you don't get the right valuation. And
it's the biggest danger. It's very interesting the amount of down vals we get. I reckon it's 50-50 probably. Yeah. I've never looked at the numbers, but I would be interested to do that actually. I reckon it's 50-50, but 50% of them are the customers over valuation, I would say, which I'm sure you could appreciate. In your case, that's not the case. It's obvious that what you've done to the property adds value. It just does. You can see that. But some you can say, do you know what? I do understand where the value is coming from.
Yeah. And I think that, there's stuff where, if it's in the ballpark, you sort of say, okay, it's not great, but we'll go with it. But yeah, I think, when it's, in this case, 100 grand out on a, on 140 grand property, it's just, it's not workable. But no, I agree. A lot of investors go in and say, oh, there's a 5-bed down the road that's at 500,000. It must be worth 500,000. But, you need to know, what's that property done? Is that property in the right area? You need to understand.
Well, when I was at Lloyd's, we were funding 2 properties next door to each other. They were in East London and they were both converted into HMOs. One was valued at 400 and one was valued at 600 by 2 completely different values, so £200,000 difference. And we wanted to find out why they'd valued them so different, 2 separate customers as well. And the answers we got was the one that valued it at 600 said, well, we valued it because of all the work that's been put in to turning it into an HMO. The one that valued at 400 was, we're valuing it because only this amount of work will be needed to turn it back into a house. Yeah. So it costs, £1,000 to turn it back into a house by taking the locks off the doors, etc., and all that sort of stuff. But it would cost 100 and something thousand to convert it into an HMO. So there's 2 complete different methods of valuing it, which came up with obviously 2 different totals. But one customer was very happy and one customer wasn't. So it is difficult, and there's no hard and fast rule the way the valuers should go. and it's different. Even when we're looking for a lender for HMOs, you've got one lender that would look at a 5-bed HMO on an investment valuation, whereas another one wouldn't, even on a 6-bed HMO. So it's very difficult to keep up to date with that criteria and steer people in the right direction. I suppose it's just the time and effort you put in to find the right solution.
I mean, there was that point where there were products on the market that would give you the valuation up front, and but they sort of disappeared over lockdown, and they're not quite back as far as I can see. And
they're not, but there are a couple of lenders that will do valuations for 150, 200 pounds.
Yeah.
So,
but that won't guarantee the valuation at the end.
No, it won't, but you get the valuation done pretty quickly in the process. So do the application, you pay 150 pounds, and then you get your valuation. So yeah, you've maybe wasted a little bit of time, but if you can get an application in and turn around in a week, and then the valuer out in a week, it's 2 weeks. But as you know, things don't always run that smoothly. So it's the best case scenario. So as we finish up, what would be the one thing that you would advise newbie property investors and refurbers to do? Have you got any ideas on that?
I mean, I would always suggest some sort of training, or a mastermind, just working with people who have done what you're looking to do. That phrase you hear is, the best mistakes to make are someone else's. And if someone else has already done that, then, you can work with them. And I certainly found that, having someone who I could turn to and say, I have no idea, how do we do this? And even if they didn't know the answer, they'll know somebody who does, because, everyone has those contacts. So I would say that's the number one thing, even if you don't want to go on a training course or whatever, get in a mastermind or find someone who's done it and work with them, because that's invaluable. And I find most people in, the property business are actually fairly happy to help other people.
Yeah.
It's, everyone thinks of it as cutthroat, we're all competing against each other, but, generally we're not. Even if we're in the same area, we're not always competing on the same properties. I mean, there are certain people might be, but generally speaking, they're not too bothered about helping people. That, it only helps the market if there's good investors and landlords out there, only makes the market better, I think. So that's going to be my advice to people.
Excellent. Good. Well, thank you for coming on the channel today. It's really appreciated. If you've liked the video, please do subscribe. You can get us on social media at Wharf Financials, or you can email us at info@wharffinancial.co.uk. Thank you very much, Chris, and we wish you well on your property journey.
Cheers, Mark. See you soon.
Thanks.